That morning the sky stretched clear and endless, a gentle breeze whispering through the freshly mowed airstrip behind my house. The strip ran smooth and pristine across my 10-acre property on the outskirts of Pine Hollow, a sleepy rural town just a short drive from the city. I'd bought this place after retiring from a 26-year career in aviation, most of it spent piloting private jets for government bigwigs. The land came with a decommissioned airstrip, grandfathered into county zoning laws from decades past, and I'd poured the last year into bringing it back to life. What no one in Pine Hollow knew, especially the new HOA president next door, was that I still flew, and not just for kicks. The jet parked in my private hangar, an old Gulfstream I'd snagged through a veterans acquisition program, was fully operational and FAA approved for civilian use. I'd scheduled a flight that afternoon, a test run before a veterans air show, with everything lined up, flight plan filed, ground checks done, fuel truck set to arrive by noon. That is, until I spotted pastel folding tables and checkered tablecloths sprouting up right on my landing strip. First I thought it was a joke. But no, it was real. A full-on picnic was taking shape at the southern end of my airstrip, exactly where my jet's wheels would kiss the ground later that day. I parked my truck at the field's edge and strolled over, keeping an open mind. That's when I saw her. Evelyn Carter, mid-50s, crisp blouse, white slacks, clutching a clipboard like it was part of her body. She'd recently been elected president of the Green VYEW Heights HOA, a development hugging the eastern side of my land. We'd crossed paths once before at a community meeting where she'd pitched turning the valley into some upscale, lifestyle zone. I'd politely declined her and VY-Ion to join the HOA, pointing out my property's aviation zoning predated her neighborhood by decades. She hadn't liked that. Now there she was, standing on my airstrip, smiling and directing volunteers as they unfurled banners reading Green VYEW Heights Summer Kickoff Picnic. I asked a volunteer who'd given them permission. They mumbled something about the HOA having a temporary use agreement for community recreational grounds, and said Evelyn had shown them a shared parcel map. I headed back to my garage, dug out my certified survey docs, the airstrip, hangar, taxi path, all squarely within my property lines. No shared parcel existed. I called the sheriff's office, but they said it wasn't an emergency, so a deputy would come by, if available. I got it. Small towns thrive on connections, and Evelyn had already started schmoozing county officials with her VY-Shaun for a better Pine Hollow. By noon, a bouncy castle was inflating near the north end of my runway. Lawn chairs, speakers, even a cotton candy stand cluttered the space I needed for takeoff. The fuel truck rolled in, parking awkwardly by the fence. The driver, a young guy named Tim, looked confused and asked if I was still flying today. I said yes. He nodded, unconviewine said, and after filling the tank, asked if I wanted him to stick around. I told him no, but to keep his radio on. At 2:45 p.m. I ran my final checks. The hangar doors groaned open, sunlight glinting off the Gulfstream's polished frame. It had been over a month since I'd flown her, and my hands buzzed with anticipation and a touch of nerves. As I taxied her out, I saw Evelyn by the bouncy castle, phone in hand, laughing for photos with guests. Pop music blared over a generator's hum. No one realized they were on an active airstrip. I parked the plane at the edge, engines off, and walked up to Evelyn. Calmly, I explained this was private property, an operational runway, and they needed to clear out. She barely looked up from her phone, dismissing me with community events trump one man's midlife hobby. I handed her my zoning maps, flight clearances, and FAA registration. She smirked and said, "This looks very official, but I've cleared it with the town liaison." I told her the town had no say over federally registered aviation land. She laughed. "Well, if it's so official, call your little Air Force to move us." I didn't bite. I returned to the hangar, radioed my FAA contact of years, and briefed him. He told me to prep the aircraft but hold off on flying. 30 minutes later, the music cranked louder, kids raced up and down the runway with paper planes, and then a sheriff's cruiser pulled up, lights flashing, no siren. Deputy Harris, a guy I knew well, stepped out, surveyed the scene, and approached me. I showed him my docs. He took photos, made calls, and said little. Evelyn marched over, waving her arms, calling me a disruptive neighbor with unreasonable demands. Harris ignored her, motioning her toward his cruiser. Then a second vehicle arrived, unmarked, tinted, government VY Bess. A woman in a suit stepped out, flashed a badge too fast to read, and strode toward Evelyn and Harris. Evelyn's face tightened mid-sentence. Whatever the woman said, it hit hard. The picnic rolled on oblivious, but from my hangar, I saw Evelyn's shoulders stiffen, her clipboard gripped like a lifeline. The woman who introduced herself to Harris's L. Bennett handed over a sealed envelope addressed to the Greenview EW Heights HOA. I'd seen enough federal paperwork to recognize that stamp likely regulatory or legal. Evelyn's reign as HOA queen was cracking. Back at the hangar, my FAA contact messaged, "Hold position, do not engage, support inbound." That meant this was no longer just a local spat. Evelyn, still clueless about the stakes, whispered to a volunteer who rallied folks near a stage. She climbed up, clipboard gone, forcing a smile, and announced an early wrap-up due to scheduling conflicts. Grumbles followed, but most were too busy chasing kids or wiping lemonade spills to care. I stayed put as unease rippled through the crowd. Harris lingered near Bennett, now joined by a man in a gray suit from another black car, both toting document cases. The cotton candy guy deflated his stand, eyeing the officials warily. Evelyn approached the new guy, her gestures wild but hushed. Then my hangar's backup generator kicked on with a loud clickbart of standby protocol. Heads turned. A kid by the fence yelled, "Is that a jet?" The cleanup sped up, chairs and coolers yanked from the runway. This wasn't just about trespassing anymore. A state of violation law clause tied to Pine Hollow's old airfields flagged any interference with the registered runway during FAA operations as a safety violation. Evelyn's picnic had crossed a line. Just as things seemed to settle, a late catering van rolled in, its driver dumping trays across the taxi path. Evelyn tried to stop him, but Bennett stepped forward, phone to ear. Minutes later, a low rumble grew. A Department of Transportation helicopter circled overhead, landing nearby. Phones shot up, the crowd buzzing. Evelyn froze as two officials disembarked, one with a regulatory toolkit, reports, forms, violation notices. They met Bennett and the suit, then walked the airstrip with Harris, measuring, snapping photos, even sampling the spilled food near the runway. Most folks cleared out, Leah VYing a half-dismantled picnic scene, deflated balloons, stray juice boxes. Evelyn stood by her SUV, phone to ear, silent, cheeks red, clipboard MIA. As the sun dipped, casting gold over the field, one official, Tom Brecian, FAA compliance guy I'd met years back, approached me. He handed me a sealed document, an FAA acknowledgement of interference, a halt to unauthorized use of my land, and a pending investigation into a violation code breaches. This wasn't just paperwork. It was a federal wake-up call. The next morning, my landline rung an FAA rep confirming a Monday re-VYW meeting. They wanted every document I had: zoning, registration, flight logs, HA interactions. I had most of it ready, but their speed signaled bigger worries: liability, precedent, something beyond one picnic. By 10 a.m., a letter arrived from Evelyn's legal counsel, begging for mediation to avoid entanglement. I snapped a photo, sent it to the FAA and Bennett, and let it sit. Later, a town meeting popped up on Pine Hollow's community board, public concern over property misuse and HOA boundaries. Judge Ramsey, a semi-retired court official with the Greenview EW Heights home, likely pushed it. He'd long grumbled about Evelyn's power grabs. At the meeting, I sat quietly in back. Residents aired grievances: fines for bird feeders, a kid's swing axe for aesthetic mismatch, a tree trimmed without consent. Judge Ramsey read the county charter. HOAs had no sway over non-members, calling Evelyn's moves a power play masked as unity. Outside, whispers grew about the helicopter. Bennett, the runway food pics now viral online. Local news ran, HOA overstep grounds picnic, and Pine Hollow airstrip sparks FAA probe. Evelyn's board scrambled, some resigning quietly. A tired ex-engineer, Paul Tate, apologized to me for staying silent too long. Next day, the Inspector General sent a questionnaire on HOA overreach. I answered straight. Evelyn went dark: no posts, no memos. Then 3 days later, I found orange survey markers on my land, 6 feet past my fence, angling to slice off part of my airstrip. I photographed them, checked my steel stakes, and alerted Bennett. She said no agency ordered this. A Greenview EW Heights Development Authority truck soon showed, claiming to assess recreational green space. Evelyn wasn't backing off, she was pivoting. That night, a mediator pitched a shared airpark plan. I declined, alerted my lawyer, and Bennett called it a jurisdictional soft incursion. The local paper ran, "Can Pine Hollow's Airstrip serve all?" Evelyn's PR push, hinting at rezoning. I hired Walt Klein, a retired federal surveyor, for a high-tech resurvey, drones, satellites, 3D maps. We proved her markers VY-OLAT my lines, sending the data to the FAA, county, and IG. I added a VY-ation warning signs legal armor. Evelyn watched from her balcony as I planted the first one, her move countered. A court hearing loomed. Green VYW Heights mailed a flimsy zoning mix-up notice, but support shifted my way. Monday, a DOT ombudsman toured my land, re-VYE'd the survey, and nodded at the signs. This makes things very clear. The IG tagged my airstrip as protected. At the hearing, my EVY didn't a federal backet crushed Evelyn's vague, community benefit claims. The judge ruled. Injunction against Green VYW Heights, retractions ordered, Evelyn to apologize to the FAA. Future HOA moves flagged for re-VYW. She resigned, sold her house, and left. My airstrip became a community drawfly-ins, kids learning a VY-ation, a mural on my hangar. Some boundaries lift us higher. It wasn't just about the strip. It was about holding ground against quiet erasure, showing a town that protecting what's yours can lift everyone.